Jay Dixit, and I use Emacs, but I am not a programmer. I can barely write a line of code to save my life. I'm a writer and a journalist. I am mainly a science writer. I write about psychology. I used to work for a magazine called Psychology Today. The other thing I do is I teach writing and storytelling. And I have a company, New York Writers Intensive, so that's me. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about how I use Emacs and why I use Emacs as a writer, as a researcher, how it helps me, and the way that I think I can best explain this is by first telling you guys the story of how I came to Emacs, why I like it, like why it's appealing to me, and how I sort of found my way to Emacs in the first place. So here's my first computer. I guess it wasn't technically mine. It was belonged to my father's university. He's a physicist, and he used to travel a lot. And so when he would go away on trips, he would go to Switzerland. They had a big particle accelerator there at CERN, and he would go and he would do his experiment research projects there. So he'd be gone for a few weeks at a time. And this was actually before Gmail or Hotmail or any of those. He actually created a Unix-based, just like a script, I guess, where we actually logged into his account. And then we could, it was like a makeshift, like send and receive email. And so I actually learned to type on one of these things. And then this is how we connected when my father was away. I was going to try to make it play the handshake noise, but I didn't figure out how to incorporate that into the presentation. But it's true. We actually dialed up on a dial-up telephone and then used the modem muffs, and then here I think you guys actually can't, unfortunately. I think the resolution's not great enough for you guys to see this text. Here's a.
Read the whole thing from the back.
You can read it.
The resolution is just fine.
Okay, so
it's a little bit curved from the shape of the screen.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's the way it was back then, right? So here I am writing to my father while he's away, and that's actually how I learned to type. That and this thing that was also on that same terminal system, which was called Dungeon on our system, but I guess maybe better known as Zork, one of the original, or maybe the original text adventure game. And then after a while, I had a game called, based on my favorite novel, which is still my favorite novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And so I actually had that game as well. And so I was there like every day after school, like typing and typing, but I wasn't doing any programming. So even then, by the time I actually got my first computer that was my own, that wasn't just a terminal, because I had no access to any of the Unix whatever when I was using the terminal that my dad set up. So this was my first computer, a PowerBook, and on that, if you could like hack around on things like Emacs, I wasn't aware. I never heard of it. So I was using Microsoft Word. That's how I was writing my papers. And I used to, when I was studying, I would type up my lecture notes, and I would create a big outline, and I would have the whole semester outline, with each class and the topics, and then ever increasing levels of indentation for the hierarchy. And I think that's just how, I think I always kind of thought in outlines. That was kind of my mode. So I was using Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word evolved, and it was, it was fine for me for most of that time. I didn't mind. I don't remember minding it at the time, and I didn't know that anything else was available. And it wasn't until I, more recently, this a few years ago now, decided to write my own book, to research and write my own nonfiction book, psychology book, about the psychology of the unconscious mind and how we make decisions and choices about love and sex and dating, all based on psychology studies. So that's the book. Actually, still working on it. But once I started working on that, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do it in this. I needed something. I needed a better way to organize it, because the hardest, in fact, still the hardest part of this process of writing this book has been figuring out the structure of the whole thing. And there's so much information that it's unwieldy, and it's so hard to conceptualize it all in one moment in my mind all at once anyway. So I needed a way to represent it and display it and manipulate it. And so I realized I needed a different solution. So I did what I always do, which is I went to Google and I was like, okay, well, how do I outlining tools for writing? And I found a few different solutions. One of them was this tool called Workflowy, which I really love. I still love. Some of you may know it. It's just an outliner. Hierarchical lists. Everything is a list. There's, I think, I think you can do. Yeah, you can have a little bit of text that's not. You can add a note to a list, but the main content is always in list form, and you always just increase the indentation as you go deeper into the concept. I liked this, but it wasn't very. It's a web-based tool. It wasn't right for writing my book in. It was a little bit slower, and also it lacked, I was always, even though I grew up on a Mac, I was always a sort of power user where I was doing a lot of keyboard shortcuts. This didn't have them, and it was all mousy, drag and drop. It took a long time. I was like, this isn't going to work either to write an entire book, 300 pages. So again, I'm Googling, and I found another tool, Scrivener. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's an interesting tool. And the way it works is here in the right pane you have the text, and here you have folders and files, kind of what do you call that? Like a Windows Explorer style interface in the left pane, and you can drag and drop to rearrange. If you're like, oh, I want this section here, I want to move it to the beginning of the chapter. You can do that, but again, it's slow and it's all drag and drop with the mouse. And I didn't like that. And also, it's just so, I don't know, it seems hectic to me. It didn't seem, it wasn't like the kind of, this is also when, distraction-free writing environments were becoming popular. And I was like, this is kind of like the opposite. It's just like, it's all distractions, and it's so cluttered visually, and I didn't enjoy using it. I always just felt like it was, I had this problem of overwhelm with thinking about my enormous book subject, and I felt like this wasn't helping. I felt like this was like making me feel more anxious about how much information there was and trying to wrangle it all into a coherent outline and hierarchy. So I decided I didn't want that either. And between Workflowy and Scrivener, I kind of could describe what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. I was like, if only there were a tool that were kind of like halfway between Workflowy and Scrivener, and if it did this. And so what I did to my next step was I realized I needed a better solution. So my first line of defense was Google. Didn't help me. So I went on to the forums. And this headline, by the way, says, it's an onion headline. Man on the internet almost falls into world of DIY mustard enthusiasts. And it talks about how he starts, he's Googling for like the best kind of mustard, and then he finds this forum about mustard, and he starts posting. He reads all the threads about different kinds of mustard, and he starts posting. He becomes an active user. And at a certain moment, he's like, "What am I doing? This isn't me. What am I doing?" And that's for sure happened to me with a bunch of different things. Like I could be standing here giving a presentation about different kinds of blenders and the best blenders for green smoothies, and you can also make soup with them, and Blendtec versus Vitamix and all the prices. Because when I decided to buy a blender, that's what I did. That's what I do. I guess I became an expert on it. So I went into the forums and I posted my post about, and this is where it all began. This is my original email, and I'm going to read it to you because I think this is the turning point for me. First of all, it's on a forum called outlinersoftware.com. I was like, I need an outliner. This is a good place to start. And the subject is outlining in the left pane, text in the right. And here's the text of what I wrote. Hey everyone, is there an app that displays keyboard editable hierarchical structure in the left pane and text editing / word processing in the right pane? I'm looking for a Mac or web-based app that will allow me to create and modify hierarchical structure. I'm so specific, right? I was like, I may as well just say on my dream wish list of all the things that I want. Modify hierarchical structure in the form of multi-level bulleted lists in the left pane and do text editing / word processing in the right pane. I wish I could combine Workflowy and Scrivener into one tool. The good thing about Scrivener, it displays the hierarchical structure in my document in the left pane with headers, subheaders, sub-subheaders, and displays a text editor / word processor in the right pane. The problem with Scrivener, creating new sections, moving sections around, nesting one section beneath another, etc., is cumbersome. Every time you want a new level of the hierarchy, you have to choose new text. like mouse drag and mouse to the menu, name it, and use the trackpad, not the keyboard, to drag it to where you want. Blah blah blah. The good thing about Workflowy. So here I want a tool that's like Workflowy, quick keyboard-based editing and modifying. So I'm describing exactly what I want, right? And I got a bunch of responses, and none of them were very helpful. Like, here's this guy who says, I used Mori for this sort of thing, and we found it well suited. You can, I don't know if it's available for the Mac, though. Development has been scarce and erratic in recent years, but you can try it for free. Somebody else is like, OP, that's me, is asking about something that's hard to find in modern outlining applications, even harder on Macs. And he describes what I want, and he's kind of like, yeah, you're not going to find it. There's something called Mad About, I agree with another poster that tree is a good option to try, though the notes are in line and not in a separate right-hand pane as the original poster requests. So no luck there, but then I get this email from somebody named JB From, who says, you can do this in Emacs org mode by using indirect buffer, vertical split screen, and visibility cycling. Everything is handled via hotkeys. It's available for Mac. I frequently work in this mode for longer documents. What? This is possible? Oh my God. I was like, I can't believe that somebody just designed a tool that's exactly what I want. Little did I know I'd have to basically design it myself, or I should say, customize it to make it into over a period of years. But yeah, so I write back immediately. JB From, Emacs org mode sounds like a great solution. I'm intrigued. It also looks a little complicated, but, right, understatement of my life. But if it indeed does exactly what I'm describing, then I'm willing to take on a learning curve. I've downloaded Emacs in org mode. Can you describe how to set it up to do this, or direct me to a resource that will? So he tells me, and so I do. I install it, and this is. I want you guys to hear this email because this is me at the beginning, as a non-programmer, I've never used Unix once. I've just been using Microsoft Word my whole life, and Scrivener, and then Gmail. I say, hey Joseph, thanks for the tip about Emacs org mode. Oh, so this is later. I've installed it. He sent me his email address, and so now I'm emailing him. So I'm reminding him who I am. Thanks for the tip about Emacs org mode. It looks a little scary, but I'm ready to try it out. I'm trying to get started, and I've gotten stuck. Wondering if you can help me. I've installed Emacs and Ergo Emacs on my Mac. Now I need to install org mode. I really had no idea. I downloaded org mode and I'm trying to install it. The documentation simply says to install org mode, edit the make file, type make, then make install. To create the PDF and HTML documentation files, type make doc. But where am I supposed to type these things? In Terminal? I knew that there was an app on my laptop called Terminal. I was like, in Terminal? Do I somehow type them into Emacs itself? Or do I get a prompt in Emacs so I can type commands?
What year is this?
This is
2011? 2011?
Yeah.
2011?
Yeah, I think that's right. Is it? Yeah, that sounds right. So that was me. Where do I type these things? I don't even know. I was definitely one of these guys at the time. But everybody has to start somewhere. So over time, I figured it out. Eventually, I got it working. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is me outlining my book using org mode. And I eventually figured out how to do exactly the thing that I had originally described with 2 panes with text in the right and my outline, which is editable and hierarchical. And I can move around I can move headings around in the hierarchy using just the keyboard. And so I did it. Yay!
Yeah! Wait. Can I ask you a question about that? When you're moving around in the org, is it just showing you different documents, or is it actually?
No, this is one big document actually. So those are headings that I have.
Pointers to bookmarks or
No, they're actually headings in my that are going to be in the book too. They're like. Yeah, so those are headings, and this is one of these headings is.
How does that work when you move around paragraphs?
Of org mode, I'll demo org mode in a bit. I'll show you how that works, but it works exactly as I want it to. I have that. I'll in a second I'll open Emacs and I'll show you guys what I do and how I do it. But it works for what I want it to do. One of my tricks too is I don't know if you guys can see, these are You don't call them hashtags.
Octothorpes is fine.
Octothorpes, right? Of course. Why did I know? All right. I actually comment my writing the same. Like you guys comment your code. You're like, oh, this is trying to do this, or couldn't figure this out, or whatever you say. Here I'm saying I have a phrase, and I say phrase this better, and then here. I had a sentence and I said, what's a to myself, right? All the comments are just to myself. What's a non-psychobabble way of saying individual differences? And then I'm going to find out the answer, and then I'll uncomment it when I actually change the text, right? So I still don't really know what I'm doing. I like this from XKCD. He says, this is how I feel all the time. One person says, keep in mind that I am self-taught, so my code may be a little messy. That person says, sure, let me see. I'm sure it's fine. And then looks at the code and says, wow, this is like being in a house built by a child using nothing but a hatchet and a picture of a house. It's like a salad recipe written by a corporate lawyer using a phone autocorrect that only knew Excel formulas. It's like someone took a transcript of a couple arguing at IKEA and made random edits until it compiled without errors. And he says, okay, I'll read the style guide. So that's me. Most of my code that I have is, because I'm now just starting to learn how to program Emacs Lisp, but up until this point, it's just me basically either Googling as I do and copying code snippets and experimenting with them to see if they do what I want, or posting questions on Stack Exchange saying like, hey, I want to do this. Anybody know how? And then tricking other people into writing code for me. So that's where I am with it. It works. People always answer. And yeah, it's complicated. I'm sure you guys. I'm sure you guys have seen this a million times. Here it is. Yeah, the Emacs learning curve. I'm still working. Actually, one that I like even better than this is I once saw a blog post it was called "How to Learn Emacs in 10 Years." So, only 10 years. Oh my God, I gotta sign up. So yeah, I'm still working on it. It's one of the reasons I'm here is to learn more. But I'm definitely in good company. Okay, so this is George R.R. Martin. He doesn't use Emacs. George R.R. Martin, who writes, he's not finished, who's writing the Game of Thrones series. He uses, what's it called? He uses WordStar. Where did it go? I had a picture. Here, WordStar, yeah. Yeah, there's WordStar. I kind of like to imagine, so I'm not the only writer who doesn't use Microsoft Word. There's there's a time-honored, proud tradition of writers who use other text-based tools. So here's WordStar, which is an old DOS text editor, and that's what George R.R. Martin uses.
It's like one of the first word processors.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect would do exactly what he wanted to do, like move paragraphs around, drop down to an outline.
Yeah, exactly. So
and give you like a second view, but you have to know the keys.
You have to know the keys. Yeah. I haven't tried it. I don't know. Emacs is doing what I want it to do now, so I'm not gonna dive in. But I like the idea that I'm kind of like him. Arthur C. Clarke used to use WordStar as well. I think he might have. There was a thing where he's like, I would like to thank. Without this, I wouldn't have been. I don't know if it was the dedication of a book, but he basically, maybe it was the dedication, and he dedicated a book to WordStar. And then another person is Neil Stephenson, who actually does use Emacs, and he has this quote. I don't know if you guys. So he's like he's the archetypal writer who uses Emacs. His quote is, the engineer hours that, this is from a larger essay called In the Beginning Was the Command Line. The engineer hours that, in the case of Microsoft Word, were devoted to features like mail merge and the ability to embed feature-length motion pictures in corporate memoranda were, in the case of Emacs, focused with maniacal intensity on the deceptively simple seeming problem of editing text. If you are a professional writer, i.e. someone else is getting paid to worry about how your words are formatted and printed, Emacs outshines all other editing software in approximately the same way that the noonday sun does the stars. It's not just bigger and brighter, it simply makes everything else vanish. So he really loves Emacs. There's WordStar and George R.R. Martin. And closing note for this part of the story, that's George R.R. Martin uses WordStar, and just Richard Stallman. Just saying, just throwing that out there. I mean, coincidence? I don't know. Okay, so that's how I found my way to Emacs and what I was looking for. So I guess now what I'll do is I'll fire up our favorite text editor and get a window and show you guys a little bit. And I'll make this part interactive, so you guys should, I didn't plan much for this part. So I figured you guys could just ask me what you want to know. So first of all, that presentation you just saw, it was written in Emacs. This is something called org HTML slideshow, and so yeah, you see this is org, and you can put in images. A lot of these are just images. It's a pretty cool tool. For me, this is an alternative, I guess, not to Microsoft Word, but to PowerPoint. Instead of having to, how annoying is it to like paste an image in and then have to like drag it to the right place and then resize it with the resizing thing? I don't want to do any of that. Can't I just like paste a URL with one keystroke?
Where you want a computer to do boring work like that for you.
Exactly. So that's why I use Emacs. So yeah, there's my presentation. You guys didn't see this, but some of these actually had notes, which only appeared on my screen. It's kind of cool. So that's how I do presentations. Oh, here's an article that I wrote about something called Downtown Project. Details don't matter, but you can see, okay, here I'm kind of like outlining and writing stuff. Extra is like that's kind of like a place where I put in notes that I've cut. Actually, I have a tool, Patrick, I showed Patrick this before. I have a tool called, a lot of times I'll find text that I'm like, this doesn't go here. This is probably just should be deleted, but I don't know I definitely want to delete it necessarily, and I don't want to have to rely on version control to go back and find it if I need it later. So I could just delete it, or what I can do, and then it'd be lost forever, or I have a tool called palimpsest mode, where with one keystroke it gets sent to the very bottom of the file. So that's what those headers called extra are. They're just, I send unneeded text, unwanted text to the bottom, and then it's not in the article itself. Yeah, this is me outlining. And so to answer your question from before about, moving headers, I can just like take one of these and just move it around, dragging just with the keyboard. So if I want this section at the beginning, it can go there easily. Let's see, I can. In fact, I wanted those numbers I added those numbers this is actually done. So as a very final step when I was exporting to Word, because I have to file in Microsoft Word, I added those numbers like as part of the text to show them that I wanted the numbers to be in the, I could have done that with automatic, numbering here, but then I didn't want to bother to be like no export for all the others, and so I just thought it would be easiest. But yeah, I'm sure that could be automated too. But yeah, here's, I'll show you how I export, because this is important. Okay, so this is the presentation. That actually just gets exported to HTML, and that's what you saw. The presentation there was in Chrome. Here's a business plan that I wrote for my company where I teach writing. We teach writing and storytelling. So this is, again, in org mode, and if I wanted to comment something, I could. This should be expanded, whatever I want to say. And then I can export either to HTML. Here it is, wrong window. Actually, let me just try doing it again with that window focused. I can export. I added a little JavaScript and stuff that I didn't write, that I found to do a table of contents. Yeah, exactly, from my savior. So here it is in HTML, and I can also, this is the cool part too, is I can go back to my same source, and I can export through LaTeX, LaTeX, Trojan.
Tech is just text, but latex can be pronounced latex or latex.
Yeah.
According to Leslie Lin.
Do you ever use LaTeX?
I don't know how to hack LaTeX. I actually just hired somebody on Fiverr.com where you can hire people for $5. to do a template for me in LaTeX. This is taking a long time to process. I can probably just, oh, there it is. Can you see that? Yeah. So there's my business plan, and it comes with a total table of contents and an appendix and headers. And I designed this, and I told him exactly what I wanted in the. Basically, I designed it in HTML and CSS, and then I was like, do this in LaTeX, and so he did. So yeah, actually this exports from the same source. And then obviously there's so many other things that I can do. I don't even know where to start, but you know, I could search across files, which I could not do in Microsoft Word. I can search and replace across files. Microsoft Word's just search and replace interface is horrible. The focus always goes to the wrong place, and you have to mouse to a different window and type to the, move the cursor to the front of the line, and then it just takes so long to do anything, and then it's only for that one file, and you also can't, if you have different, it always defaults to print preview mode or print layout mode, and I don't want that. I just want draft mode, like just text, like what Emacs is, right? But you can't, there's no global setting for always open in draft mode. You can't do it. You have to, every time you open a file, Microsoft Word, docx, whatever, you have to go mouse over and choose draft mode instead. It just got to be such a pain that I didn't want to do that anymore, deal with it anymore. So Emacs does what I want. I can, if I want to, I can easily do my little split window thing, and
I was gonna just ask.
I can make this what is it? Clone window, indirect buffer, other window. So now these are independent. So this one gets expanded. This one stays the same. Or I think I can actually just what's it called? Zero in and make it so that this is my buffer is displaying only this subtree. So that's helpful too. Or I can widen.
Stuff around the right-hand side, does it get reflected in the left-hand side as well?
Yeah, it does get reflected. Yeah, because it has to.
It's the same file, so.
It's the same file being. There you go. So I just moved products and services. I don't know if you saw that. I moved products and services to before executive summary, or
Okay.
Here, this will be a more obvious example. I'll take the appendix and I'll move it to the beginning. So now, there you go. My appendix is the first thing. So that's easy. And then I can search and replace regex. And regex?
Yeah.
Is it regex or regexp?
Regex.
It's regex.
Either one, it's short for regular expression.
Yeah, that I knew.
Yeah, you can say regular.
So you can say regex.
Regex? Okay.
There's no key though.
Some people say.
Programming JavaScript, please.
Okay, so I'm not a sophisticated user of org mode, but I've used it to write a few presentations for export to Beamer.
Yeah.
When I use it, like a top level heading is asterisk space, then whatever the.
Yeah, I'm using something called org bullets mode, which is just a little bit cleaner because I figured that the easiest way to display all these was with indentation and coloring. Here I can move this in, or these are different heading levels. And why do I have I didn't like Scrivener because it had all that clutter. So why do I want extra? What's the utility of displaying the bullets? But I could if I wanted to.
Okay.
So, for you, what are the most important tools that you add to the external file with your writing content, or things that you've even added to work mode, or just different snippets that you've had to get of code, or just
I mean, I do so many things in Emacs that it's hard to know where I start. I do email. I compose email. I just got this is not much mode, but I finally got working. So a lot of it. I mean, I would say actually one of the most important things is just customizing key bindings so that I'm unbelievably fast moving around the screen. And so that if I ever do have to work in Microsoft Word, I'm like, why is everything so slow? I can't get to where I want to go because as you guys all know, you get the muscle memory in your fingers. So just being able to move around text is probably the biggest thing that I have customized those key bindings to work for me and to be consistent with using a Mac and some things that I was used to and things like that. Yeah, let's see, what else?
Would you say though that you use like mostly vanilla org mode?
No, not at all. I have everything customized heavily. Yeah, so I mean, so that export, I mean, when I export HTML, all of that is getting customized through a bunch of stuff. Oh, here's one. I can Google from within Emacs. You guys have seen what? Google, yeah, I think I mentioned that to you last time. Yeah, exactly. So you guys have all seen, you can just choose you can Google something and then it opens in Chrome. You can Google something from within Emacs and it opens in Chrome. But what if I don't want to leave Emacs at all? I can just Google something and get it displayed in org mode. A lot of times I don't need to actually, surf around and read a million things. I can just, I just might need the first sentence of the top hit or something, and it tells me what I need to know. Let's see, what else can I show you? I do a lot of abrev mode stuff. So this is something that I've been working on. So like the big thing about this is, you guys see what I'm doing? I typed K space, BOG, TG space, AD space, TH space, S space, M space. And so, it gets really fast. You can't do that in Microsoft Word. I just kept on adding, I started out with, I think this is my first abbreviation, where it's like, why am I typing the long word, I know what I'm going to say, development, DBT, right? Because there's no time I ever need to type BC and have it stay as BC. So from now on, BC means because, and I just kept on adding abbreviations, and now I just have probably hundreds of them.
Can you define them yourself?
Yeah.
Where are you defining them?
How do I define abbreviations in Emacs? I have
Okay.
a file here where not all of these are mine. Some of these are autocorrect corrections that I imported from a bunch of lists, but a lot of them are. So here, GA expands to game. G by itself expands to go. FY expands to funny. FX to, for example.
Do you know what the number at the end means?
Yes. The number at the end refers to how many times it's been invoked, how many times it's been used. So, so the word G for go, 291, but if I find like there's 9,712 times, I didn't have to type the word the because it got abbreviated. So yeah.
Just how many keystrokes you say to yourself. You could have carpal tunnel syndrome.
I do have carpal tunnel syndrome. That's part of why I justified this insane system of abbreviating everything.
I like the jQuery one. What's it called?
It's called abbrev mode, yeah.
ABBREV.
Yeah.
I also use Emacs For Writers mainly for writing.
Oh, cool.
So this is very cool. I think that's some tricks.
Great.
So one thing I run into, I don't know if you run into this, is collaborating with non-Emacs users.
Yeah, I haven't found collaborate yet. I mean, what I usually just do is I export to HTML and I copy paste and I put it in an email.
Markdown from Word mode, right? And then you go from Markdown to Word or something.
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
Coming back in is
I usually don't. I don't have a situation where I have an ongoing collaboration with somebody. If I did that, I'd probably use Dropbox and make them, read the org mode source or something. But usually, I just send somebody something. They send it back. I edit it. I send it again. And when I do that, I usually just paste it in an email. It's the easiest thing. So I work in org mode, and then I paste something into a Gmail window, or I just use my Emacs email to do that automatically. There's org org mime HTML, where it takes your org subtree and automatically generates an HTML email and sends it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
For abbreviation mode, what happens if there's something you actually want to type, like that is an abbreviation? You literally is there a keystroke or a macro that you can do or some sort of?
If I want to type something like BC without expanding,
Yeah.
I can just type. I bound alt space, or I guess I should say meta space to insert space, but don't expand. So yeah.
And how do you do backup? So for me, for development, I've got like Git or Mercurial or just dev machines. If something gets blown away, I don't care. It's in a repo.
Yeah.
Your book with something like happens.
I have, yeah. I do use GitHub. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing, but it's just, but I figure it doesn't really matter that much because it's just me. I don't have collaborators that I'm collaborating with. It's just me. But here's my book, and I have there, and you can consolidate it a lot. Deleted stuff, consolidating proposal, simplified directory structure. Did some good work on this day, 12 days ago. Cool, good. Heading to a farm, I was like a writing retreat. Wow, I cracked this structure. That was a good day. But yeah, here I am. It's all just me. I don't need anything complicated. So I'm just doing, I'm treating Git like a way to just do a snapshot whenever I. But then I also, instead of having to what I used to do, which is save a file and have it called article underscore v1, article underscore v1 hyphen draft, article v1 draft hyphen shorter, hyphen cut a lot, instead of having to do that in like a makeshift way, now I can just, as I go and there's stuff that I don't want, and unless I don't even want to send it to the end of the file using palimpsest mode, I can just delete it, knowing that it's all here, and I'll make a notation that I deleted stuff, like deleting unnecessary stuff, and then I can go back and find that stuff. If I was a friend of mine just told me that I could be more sophisticated and actually use a tag like a Git tag, delete, so that I would then know whenever I delete a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I do use Git, and all this other things backed up to my Dropbox, and I do external hard drive backups.
So what do other writers think of your workflow? Have they tried to adopt or at least Emacs?
Are they interested?
I don't really know. Random people in coffee shops always say, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Are you coding?" Or sometimes, one time I tweeted I tweeted a photo of me here. Yeah. I stayed up one night writing, and so this was me using org mode and working on my book. And I tweeted the photo, and one writer friend of mine said, "What is that? That looks like coding." Her husband works for Google, so I guess they're shocked. But I haven't had an opportunity to. Nobody just really asked me in detail to take them through the workflow and how it works. I think you guys are interested in it, and regular writers who are fine with Microsoft Word aren't.
Looks like you upgrade your 2-panel setup to one with 3 panels. What's the
There's not-
outline, the text?
5
and then
panels.
some-
I see 5.
Yeah, there's 5. Yeah. So I have my laptop and then the external display sitting above it. Yeah.
So you're not an Emacs evangelist, then? You're not telling writers like, "Oh man, this workflow or this program's the best."
All we're going to give away is competitive advantage.
Well, I thought the content was a competitive advantage.
I've spent so many hours every week, Googling stuff, hacking Emacs Lisp code and trying to get things working, and then debugging, since I don't know what I'm doing, debugging things that don't work, that I don't, I wouldn't recommend it to somebody if they're fine with it. And there are other tools for writers where I wouldn't recommend to anybody to use Microsoft Word, but there's a tool called NV Alt. Do people know that? I could maybe even fire that up. I think I probably have it on here. This is a great tool for a writer. This is, yeah. Okay, yeah. So what this is this is Markdown. And I have a bunch of, yeah, so if I type a B, then it narrows. Wait, I type a B, it narrows. If I type a BR, so here it's, yeah. And it narrows, it's, what do you call it, incremental search. And so it's a really fast way to search one directory for all your text files, or if I say, if I search for something that doesn't exist, then I can just search for it and then I can start writing it, and then it gets created as a new text file in that directory. So it's super fast, easy way for writers to keep track of a bunch of files and find whatever they want quickly. It's Markdown. You know, Markdown has good support for a lot of things too. It's not as powerful as any of this stuff, but most writers probably don't need it. But this is a good way to, you know, solve the problem of finding things across files and all that, and all those problems that I mentioned at the beginning. You can use Pandoc to export from this to PDF.
I was going to ask if you found a way to organize your random nodes you don't know where to fit yet in org mode. It looks like you're using additional velocity for that.
No, I'm not. I don't use this. I was just saying, if I was going to recommend, if somebody said to me, if a writer said to me, hey, I'm not a tech person, but Microsoft Word is too slow, what should I do? I would probably say use NVAlt. I wouldn't say go onto this life path of learning how to use Emacs, because realistically, I know that it would take so much time and it would take over their life, and I don't know if I could want to be responsible for another writer's lost productivity in that way.
So how do you store, organize, and search your nodes and ideas?
How do I organize and search? I use great question. I use so within an org mode buffer, obviously I can just search with iSearch. There's also Helm swoop, so that if I type org, Helm swoop will do, it'll show me all of the occurrences of a string within my current buffer, and I can also, and there's different commands. I think the one that I just invoked might be just this buffer, or maybe it's all open buffers. Yeah, so it shows me all occurrences in all open buffers of my string, or if I want to go further than that, I can use, I think this is, it's either our grep or here, or it's, I'm going to replace it with AG. You guys probably know all of these things as like the Unix tools that they are, and I'm just kind of like, yeah. So this is Helm AG. So I use Helm, and this is searching for everything within that directory, and obviously I can specify the directory. That's my default Helm search, which I have down to a single keystroke, which is to search within the directory that the current file is in. But obviously, worst case, I can go to our grep and specify exactly what I want to search for and where, right? Or maybe you were just asking to check, does he know about grep? Yeah.
I was asking because I'm beginning to track together like nodes and ideas because I want to like write a whole bunch of.
Yeah.
I have like 1,000 blog entries and slideshows in my head, but when I talk to someone about them, the idea floats out and I can't ever find it again. So I want to capture it and then organize them. And I just don't know if you have a way to do that, because maybe I can steal your way of sorting it and not have to come up with my own.
Oh yeah. I'm going to show you guys another thing, which is, nope. Is it called Big Fish? No, maybe it's not. Fish. There's a fish mode. What's that? No. There's a movie called Something Fish. So who knows what that is? No. Don't.
Is that Tim Burton movie?
Yes.
Big Fish?
It is called Big Fish.
What about Big Fish?
I have a file called that. Yeah, it is called Big Fish. Why didn't it come up for Spotlight? Okay. Here. Right. So text mode. So if I type a screenplay, this is pretty cool. This is something. Okay, here's a screenplay. This is the actual screenplay to that movie, Big Fish. It's just text, but there's a mode, Emacs mode called Fountain mode, where it takes that and it formats it automatically as a screenplay. And unlike other screenwriting tools where I would have to, highlight this and then go to a menu and say, okay, this is character, and then this is dialogue, right, with the menu, which is how other screenwriting tools still are, or maybe there's keystrokes to do it. but you have to specify it manually. This just parses it because it's text and it's a very predictable structure. It parses it, and then it converts it all into you know, screenplay formatting.
Does it let you edit?
Yeah, yeah, it's just text. I could actually, so here it says the mother pats him sympathetically, then adjusts his tie. I mean, if I wanted to, I could edit the actual screenplay, the big fish, and say his mother pats him unsympathetically, and then adjusts his, you know, hair. No, the big fish is a different screenplay. Yeah, yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. It would have been so much better. Oh my god. So.
And Fountain is the mode.
Fountain's the mode, and in fact, Fountain is a format that is available for example, it's available for you know, other text editors that do Markdown also. So you can use Fountain to parse text from lots of different sources, not just Emacs. But yeah, Emacs has, the same way Emacs has a Markdown mode, it has a Fountain mode.
I imposed Linux on a friend that writes screenplays. I should impose Fountain.
Yeah. I found something that I mentioned to a few people here recently called Poetry Mode. Poetry Mode, which is kind of cool because, yeah, this is a poem with syllables. You see what it's doing on the left? It's counting the syllables, which it's actually really useful because you're either counting on your fingers or you have something like this. So that's kind of cool. And then there's also a way to, this is called, it's not in, it's like kind of retired, but it's called Poetry Mode. I emailed the guy and he said that he gave up on it, but and he said that it was astronomically more complex to calculate syllables than he was anticipating, and he spent all the time just calculating, figuring out how the syllable counter, and then he was like, okay, I need to stop working on this. But I can also use, there's a function in Poetry Mode which I have not down to a keystroke, which is rhyme poetry word, which takes the word at point and rhymes it.
I think they made up some of those words.
Yeah, you know, it would be more helpful actually if there were a way.
Irrevocable layer is not a real word.
It is now.
Kenmare is a street in East Village or Lower East Side.
Or USA.
Icy in the air.
But Iceland Air.
Rare.
St. Clair.
Wire.
Billionaire, there's one. I thought it would be cool to actually keep this pane open and just automatically rhyme whatever word is at the end of a line. We were talking. There's actually, yeah, so that's Poetry Mode. I won't get into that, but yeah, that's Poetry Mode. So I don't know, I do everything in Emacs, and if there's something that I want to do that is not working, then I Google and try to find a mode to do it, or maybe I try to convince some of you guys to write it.
Probably will. Do you take advantage of things like word capture mode?
Word capture, yeah.
Yeah.
Here, word capture.
I don't know what that is.
Command, Control C, select a capture template, and then I can, you know, I have these are different files. You guys are seeing the inner workings of my brain at this moment. These are different files. I can choose one. Here's a capture buffer, and this is just a simple one where I can, you know, today I gave a presentation, and then, you know, I can write text, and then I can hit a keystroke, Control C, and then it captures it and puts that file away. And then if I open that file, it has all of these ones that are categorized, my diary entries, essentially.
And you have it saved every 3 seconds, it looks like.
Yeah, I have been getting crashes recently, which I can't figure out, and you know, actual Emacs crashes where there's no backtrace because all I see is the Finder and where did Emacs go? Yeah. So I recently added that. Yeah.
Why did you choose regular Emacs over Aqua Emacs?
I started with Aquamax, yeah, and then at a certain point, when I started doing a lot of customizing and taking code taking code from places I found online, or asking people to help me with things. Every time I asked a question on Stack Exchange and said, okay, I'm using Aquamax and I'm trying to do this, it's not working, how do I do it? They would always get mad at me and be like, well, why are you using Aquamax in the first place? You should be using GNU Emacs. And so eventually I switched. But I definitely already implemented all the functionality that Aquamax has into GNU Emacs that it didn't come with. Like, like Aquamax has some smart functions where, like, if you are, cutting and pasting text or deleting by word, it doesn't leave extra spaces. GNU Emacs by default does. So I created something where it fixes the space, and there's actually an Emacs command called just one space. So kill word, and then run just one space, and then it twists the space. Things like that. Aquamax has a lot of great things. I don't have anything against it, but it just became easier to use the one that everybody else was using.
Do you use BibTeX for references, or do you use?
No, I don't do that. The way that I've been keeping track of, well, actually, okay, that's a good question. How do I keep track of references? If I have a little, I think this is through Abrev mode. I can type no. Oh, I might have deleted it. Oh, I recently, there it is. Okay. A footnote. So I can add a footnote, and then when I don't know. And then when I export, that becomes a footnote, right? So that's what I've been doing, just adding footnotes as I go. And then I have a bibliographical essay where I actually write in prose. The section about made preferences comes from a paper by whatever, and I have that in prose, and because I'm not writing a thesis where it needs to be in a certain format. I figure the easiest way is just to write notes. That's what people do these days, is write notes saying where you found different stuff.
Okay, but this case is not going to some database to look up the reference.
Oh, no, it's not at all, no.
Just type it in and go on.
That's right. Yeah.
I have two minor questions.
Oh, sorry, actually, I'll hold you right there. But as a follow-up to that question, because of course, keeping track of citations is important. If I get something online, for instance, I have a tool that will, or not a tool, but just a function that will, that didn't work that well. That's not a very good example because it just says Google. But what if I Googled something there? In the beginning was the command line. And so from here, if I'm on this page, this is Neil Stephenson's essay, and let's say I'm copying a sentence from it. First of all, I can do this. I can have block quote, and I can put in block quote, and then here I have source, and I have a keystroke that runs something called org mac link grabber or something like that, and then this is actually now an org link with the URL and the title of the page that gets inserted automatically. And I forgot the keystroke, but I have a function that actually creates the block quote, pastes, and then types source, and then grabs the URL automatically. So that can be handy too. I have so many things like this. Every time, I feel like I can relate to you guys in this way, which is that every time I do anything that's remotely tedious, I'm like, there's got to be a way to automate this, and then I spend 10 times as long trying to find a solution to make it happen automatically. So I have so many things like this. Oh yeah, you had a question. Sorry, coming back to you. Yeah.
I was going to ask two little things. First, your title of the window is amazing. I wonder if you can comment on
I
that.
should probably have changed that before I gave this presentation. I just found, oh yeah, okay. This is because I switched from, so where do you get your Emacs if you use a Mac? I was getting it from a website called Emacs for Mac OSX.com, and I was downloading that. And then I was reading online, people were saying, well, you know what's much better than that is this like Railway Cat Emacs because it has better font rendering, blah, 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 and it has the ability to, you can swipe things. So I can swipe from, what do you call these frames? Frame to frame, just by swiping. Look at that. And there's, you know, oh, I can also, I guess, what's this called? I can pinch to shrink the text, and I can, what's the opposite of pinch? I don't know. I can do this to zoom. So it has these, and also the fonts do look better because and it has like some kind of, you know, RGA graphics something. So they were like, oh, switch to that. So then I did, and then I found that unlike New Emacs, where the title of my file, in the old days when I used New Emacs, my file document.txt would go up here. But that didn't happen with Railway Cat Emacs. Instead, it just said Emacs at the top, which is useless. Why do I need that? And I have different files open at different times. So I Googled it, and there was a thing that said, to set the name of your file, what's it called? The title of the window, title bar, just modify this function, modify this variable, I should say, like set q variable, whatever it was, to this. And here's the wildcard thing. There's probably words for all of these, for the actual file name, and if you want to insert other string, you can. So then I was just playing around with it, and right now it says, hey bro, just FYI, this file is called document.txt or something like that, where document.txt is just the title. All right, I was just having fun with myself. Yeah.
And that's in your .emacs file?
Yeah.
Can we see your .emacs?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have it online anywhere? Is it up on the
Yeah, I do have it online. Oh, another thing that I use, by the way, is this is called buffer stack. This is saves so much time because instead of having to use Microsoft Word and like, oh, I want to open this file, I can just page through them using, I have it bound to command right, command left. So these are all my relevant buffers, and then things that are, you know, compile windows or, you know, I could actually see all, these things, org agenda, scratch, messages, shell command output, PDF output. I have those set to not be tracked by buffer stack so that when I'm paging through, I only see the ones that are interesting to me, right? So that's useful. I have a recent files thing that this is helm mode recent F open files. So that's useful, just my most recent files. I have, I'm remembering all these things. I have bound to command backslash. It opens the last file that was open in one keystroke. So it can, you know, if I launch and then if I close a file, I can also close a file with command F. And if I'm like, oh, I needed that actually, I can open it again. So big fish, kill buffer, closes, or I open it again, one keystroke. That's useful. I have projectile I'm starting to use, which is, within this project, all the files, and then I can narrow that, right? So that's useful. And then somebody asked me something.
Okay, do you have this online somewhere?
You want to see my Emacs, right? Yes, so I do. I do have it online. I also have more than one. I split it into two files originally when I was using Aquamax. So this is shared, which is shared between GNU Emacs and Aquamax. And then I have another one called GNU Emacs Startup, which is just GNU Emacs. Although I don't use Aquamax anymore, so I could consolidate them. And then I started splitting them up again. Like I have cosmetics here, which is like things like, you know, different fonts and color themes and things like that. And oh yeah, the other thing is, as you can see, I have my .emacs, I have my config files in org mode, right? So these are headings and, or actually here's a better one because I have headings and subheadings. No,
So that's really interesting because, like, org mode is, like, you can do executable snippets, but this is a really good way then to organize it. Definitely.
Yeah, so these are
a way that makes sense
snippets, yeah.
for you. That's fascinating. It's really cool.
I did a thing so that I could have both a kill ring and a paste and like OS 10 paste. So if I copy text from the web, I can paste that, but that's different from if I kill something. So I can still copy and paste the same text from the web, but if I want to paste it, then I can paste separately from the kill ring. So those are separate. So I actually have two, which actually comes in really handy. Yeah, I should probably undo all that.
Just a quick time check. We're at about an hour.
Yeah, I'm good. Any other questions?
Yeah, just
Lots
curious.
more.
I'm sure there are tons more. Like I'm sure I have about 1 million more. But anybody have any big questions they want to ask?
I can share the my GitHub repository with my config files, and then you guys can look at them if you're interested. And you can fix and clean up the code because I don't know what I'm doing. Thank you, guys.